You're listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. Our presenting sponsor is the end-to-end production solution, Green Slate. Whether it's start paperwork, time cards, purchase orders, or reports, everything is digital, everything is on the app, and you can work from wherever you are. Green Slate offers full service to productions, including payroll, accounting software, and people, incentives management, ACA benefits, and now background casting and payroll through a partnership with Castify. The future is actually here. And if you'd like to hear this pitch in person or see it for yourself, call me as I am working there as the SVP of West Coast Operations. Here's my number, 310-789-2001, extension 323, or jhw@gslate.com. Now, back to my passion project. For today's episode, I had a bit of serendipity. I went to the Produced By conference this summer and happened to sit down next to today's guest. Marquette Jones is a filmmaker, an attorney, a professor, and she hosts a podcast called Directing Magic, where she interviews female filmmakers. As you can imagine, we had a lot in common, so I invited her to come to my table and have a conversation. Not only did I learn a lot about her and her career, but we also talked about podcasting and what drives us to do this, and it gets to be very inside baseball. We interviewed each other just enough for both of these hosts to be uncomfortable. Enjoy. For her full bio, go to my website, which you can find at theother50%.com for added features, photos, show notes, and the merchandise. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast places. And also the full season of Catch a Break, The Insider's Guide to Getting Into and Navigating Hollywood, is now available on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast places, and on the website, catchabreakpodcast.com. Go check out that one too. We're working on season 2 as we speak. All right, here's my conversation with Marquette Jones. Have a listen. What do you do?
Jeez, that's like such a simple question, but such a hard question.
Well, because you're probably 100 answers, right?
I have 100 answers. So what do? I write, I direct, I produce and host a podcast for women also in the entertainment industry. I make short films, I watch television, I teach film production at University of Alabama, and I paint my nails pretty much compulsively.
Well, they do look beautiful and fresh.
That's what I do. Okay.
I want to talk about the crazy way we met.
Yes. Let's please talk about how we met, because that was insane. It's such a Hollywood moment.
It was such a Hollywood moment. We went to Produced By.
Yes.
And I walked in and I see Shasheen Artis, who was on this podcast. So I went just right up to her like, Shasheen, how are you?
Yes. And I just happened to be between the two of you guys, which was awkward. Like you wanted to give a hug, like I haven't seen you
just
forever.
Just right over your head.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, it was fun, but it was funny. I was like, oh, maybe I should move over. But then she said, congratulations to you for 162 episodes.
Something like that. It was just my 3rd year anniversary. So I just published 3 years, 164, I
64.
think. Yeah.
Okay. And because I am like, I don't know, whatever you want to call me, I was like, you're that woman. You're the woman who has recorded 160 something episodes. How does she do it? And so I immediately knew who you were, and I jumped into the middle of a conversation that had nothing to do with me.
That was so fun. I gotta tell you, that was the first time I've ever been recognized out in the world.
Really?
It was really exciting.
Oh my God.
I was like, how on earth did you know who I was?
And she didn't even say your name. She didn't say the name of the podcast. She just said the number of episodes. And then that's when I was like, I know exactly who that is.
You said, are you the other 50%?
Yes.
That was crazy. And then to find out that you also have a podcast talking to women in entertainment.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Amazing.
And you don't even live here.
And to be fair, I also part of the reason why I remember the 164 episodes is because I was like, how does she do that? How does she make time for that much recording and that many episodes in a 3-year period? Because I also have, like we've already said, a show, and I have 30 that have been released. I mean, I've recorded more. Sorry, guys. But I have more that, I have 30, let's just say. And you have 160 in the same amount of time. And I'm like, I know how much work that takes, and I am in awe.
Well, the secret is I quit my job and did it full time for 3 years. I don't know how and I'm finding out now, I don't know how you do it on the side. Like it's hard. It is a lot.
It is a job. Like it's work. It's a lot of work. Because it's not just to sit down and have the conversation. Because if you're, a person who wants to be prepared and all that sort of stuff, there's the research, there's the marketing of it, there's
the editing and the posting and the publishing and the social media. So many things I had no idea how to do when I started. Mm-hmm. Tell us the name of your podcast so people can find it.
Directing Magic Podcast.
And it is focused on
women in the entertainment industry. I mostly interview directors and producers who are in the independent scene, some television people. And that's the reason why I was at the Producers Guild of America's conference, the Produced by conference, was to check out some people that are going to come on the show later on.
That's so fun. And I was looking at your guests, and we've had a lot of crossover.
Have we?
Yeah.
I saw one person. I haven't even released her episode yet. Lee Broda.
Oh, yeah.
She's a great interview.
Oh, yeah. She's wonderful. But also Camille Brown and Rainey Kerwin.
Everyone knows Rainey.
I know. She knows everybody.
Like, no, like seriously. Like,
yeah.
I've had at least 4 people say, oh, I decided to come on your show because Rainey did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, she's the best. And she introduced me to a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
There's this whole community I had no idea was going on. Yeah.
Well, I think it all kind of comes out of Film Fatales. Mm-hmm. I think.
A lot of them are, for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me about your career. How did you start? We Go Violets. We both
yes.
Yeah.
How about that? Okay, so
we have a lot of things in common.
Yes. Well, then we're going to have to become best friends.
That's right.
So I don't know, the short version, I started out at Berkeley, UC Berkeley, undergrad, went to law school there as well. I was a community lawyer for a couple of years.
But you're a lawyer too?
I am a lawyer, yes.
Well.
At California Bar, yes. And so I was doing community lawyering up in the Bay Area for quite a while, for a few years. I loved my clients, thought they were fascinating. I love hearing their stories. Did not love the research and writing part, or just the research and like legal writing part of my job. I just wanted to sit around and interview them. Like, so, and then what happened? And oh my gosh. And
what does a community lawyer do?
So in my case, I was a HIV specialist. So we had a grant. The name of the organization was East Bay Community Law Center. And so they had different sections of the type of work they do. They did housing. And then one of the sections was HIV specialties. So a lot of end of life planning. They don't need that as much anymore. But when I was there, we did a lot of end of life planning. We did a lot of navigating bureaucracies related to the illness. So people were like transitioning off their jobs and onto disability or any of that type of stuff. If they had discrimination against them, we dealt with that. And so I did that for a few years. And again, like I really enjoyed the people
important work.
So yeah, super important work.
Yeah.
And great atmosphere as far as my coworkers. But I just was more interested in the stories than the advocacy.
So did you then go to grad school after that?
So then I went.
Again?
Yes. And that was the crazy part, right? Because, like I was established, like I was at one of the top places for what I did. I had, all of that.
You had a whole career.
I had a whole career. And I took one, just for like fun, I took one screenwriting class at a junior college. And this was after college, law school, the whole 9.
Right.
And I just took it for kicks. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I told the woman, I'm like, you're the best teacher I ever had. So the one screenwriting class, like totally turned on the light bulb for me. And because I had already established all of this life, I only applied to one school, which was NYU. And I basically said, if you get into NYU, it's a sign that that's the way you should go. If you don't get in, it's okay. And if you still want to like play around and like just make some stuff on the side, you could do that. But if you're going back to school,
NYU.
Yeah. Like if you're going back to school, if you're going to take on more debt, if you're going to do all those things, and it has to be the number one school in what you're applying for. I don't know. In my mind, it made sense, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense now that I'm saying it out loud to somebody else too.
Except that it totally worked out.
It worked out, and thank God. But like, I just felt like that's the only place that I wanted to go, because I was a big fan of Spike Lee, and he was also a part of my, like, in my mind, like I always remembered him saying, well, if Black women don't like the way I make movies, then they should make their own. He's okay. He quoted that like back in like She's Gotta Have It days, the original. And
did you like the way he made his movies?
I love Spike Lee.
All respect to Spike.
All respect. But do I think that Black women are more faceted than what he has portrayed? Yes.
That was such a good way to say that. Well done.
I mean, he's a great mentor, and
yeah, he's brilliant. You can't knock Spike.
Yeah, but he was right. Like, there's much more to our story that somebody needed to tell. So,
there's room for more.
So that was how I got it in my mind that I wanted to go to NYU over anything else.
Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio, mostly.
And then how did you get to, you went to Berkeley.
I grew up in Ohio until the 8th grade, and then I moved to Los Angeles.
Okay.
So that's how I got the idea about Berkeley, and kind of like California was home.
Okay, so then you're in New York.
So then I moved back across the country and did the whole New York thing, which was amazing, and had a very intense educational experience there because I had not touched a camera before I went to film school. I just talk about giving yourself bars, right?
You were just jumping in.
Jumped all the way in.
Now, the people you were in that program with, had they done undergrad film school? Had they made a bunch of shorts?
Listen, my class at NYU includes rock stars as far as the film industry goes now, which is a whole other story. So Cary Fukunaga, one of the guys who did Black Swan, those are my cohort. So I look at them and I'm like, probably TMI, but but I know they're not smarter than me because I was in class with them. So I'm going to figure out how to do this too. I'm going to figure out how to make things. So to answer the question, yes, they had all made stuff before. They were cinematographers before, and a couple of journalists, and and some were undergraduate film majors. Mm-hmm. And then were
you an attorney?
I was an attorney, but I also was probably one of the oldest people in my class. I think I was the second oldest and the only Black woman. And yeah.
So did you take to it?
I love it.
So did you make films while you were there?
I made several films while I was in film school. We have to make a film to graduate. Mm-hmm. So my thesis film was called Round on Both Sides. It was an homage to my Ohio upbringing.
And what does that title mean?
So there's a childhood riddle, which is what's round on both sides but high in the middle.
Okay, hold on. Round on both sides but high in the middle? Okay, you got me.
Ohio. Can you visualize it?
Yes. You got me. You got regional humor. Okay.
Exactly. Everyone there gets the joke. No one else does.
Okay, so what was that about?
It was about a woman who had moved from Ohio, and moved away, left her daughter behind, and was coming back home to get her. But the story is about the journey of finding her daughter because she wasn't where she left her. She had left her with her mom, and she had to travel around town to figure out where her child was.
Things that happened while she was away.
Right. And not paying attention. And so, yeah.
All right. So what happened with that film?
So that one, I did a lot of festivals with that. And so it did the festival run. And a lot of people said, oh, you should make a feature version of it. We want more, blah, blah, blah. I kind of left it a little open-ended. Mm-hmm. I think at the time I thought I wanted to make a feature out of it. But once I made the short, I felt done. With the story and the characters. I felt like I had said what I wanted to say about them. And I was very happy with the product. So I'm like, I think I'm going to have to find something else. And the other thing that story helped me realize creatively, because it was a drama and it was a family drama. I don't necessarily, after that, I realized I want to have more fun with my stories. And so the next piece that I did, I went in a whole other direction, which was comedy and kind of a dark comedy called Forgiving Chris Brown, which is a short film that I did after I got out of film school, and I did a lot of festivals with that. And that one, I picked all the things that I like about filmmaking. So locations, I like locations. I like women. I like dressing them up and playing paper dolls with them, so to speak, character wise. And so I threw all of that into it. And then in terms of that particular story, I was on Twitter and I was really, really into social media. I still am like really into social media overall. And one day I had tweeted like, and this was a while ago, like when all the stuff was going on between Chris Brown and Rihanna, I'm like, Forgiving Chris Brown would be a great movie title. And a few people were like, yeah, it would. And so then I just kind of started playing with that in terms of like, well, what does that mean? Well, because I know I don't forgive him.
Yeah, do we need to forgive him?
Exactly. That's like a question.
Has he asked for forgiveness?
All the things, right?
All the things. Yeah.
And so I use that premise, just that little phrase, as like a way to like enter into this story, which was not about him personally. For the record, don't troll me.
Don't at me about Chris Brown.
Oh my gosh. Which is like, and they did for a little while. They did. I had to like lock down some accounts because of that, which was funny. But you can find this movie on Amazon Prime for free. If you ever feel like watching it. It's fun.
I feel like watching it tonight. I will.
It's fun. And that was the other thing. Like music was a big part of my process. So I say all of that to say that I had so much fun making that movie. And now like everything that I write is kind of on that same, how do I, even if I'm talking about something that's heavier, like how do I have fun with it? And how do I allow my characters to not feel so heavy when I'm writing them or directing or whatever.
That's great. So how long did you stay in New York?
I think 9 years.
Oh, and you made a bunch of films.
I made 5 shorts maybe. And then I have a feature script that I'm workshopping and shopping around now to get made. That's my first feature.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Can you say what
excited.
It's called?
That is called After the Jump. And it is about a young woman who's having the worst day of her life. And she is considering suicide and is interrupted by a mysterious bystander who happens to be a graffiti artist, who happens to know all the hot spots to go to in Los Angeles. So the woman takes her through the underground art scene of Los Angeles and kind of hopefully talks her into seeing a different way of living.
Oh, how very cool. So are you're shopping that right now?
Yes.
Okay, that's exciting.
And I just did a screenwriting lab for it, which was the Athena screenwriting lab.
Ooh, tell me more.
So the Athena Film Festival, which is, they're out of New York, and they do a New York Writers Lab, and they do a Los Angeles Writers Lab. And I just finished up, which was why I was out here in LA. I just finished up a screenwriting lab with them. And it was really, really great. They choose about 8 screenwriters to workshop their script, both peer-to-peer and with a mentor. And the mentors that they chose this year were really fabulous and really, really helpful. We had Leah Meyerhoff, Najla, whose last name I can't pronounce, but she's one of the directors of Clean Sugar, the screenwriter of Legally Blonde, which I just completely fangirled over. I was like, oh my God. And if you ever meet her, she looks like her movies.
Oh my God.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
super smart, super feminine, and like it was all like mixed in together. It was like, oh my gosh. Wow.
Like what? Like It's Hard?
Yes. And she also did, was it House Bunny or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I was really excited. I mean, I was really excited about everyone, but in terms of like my writing style, I was like, I really like your stuff.
Yeah.
And then the writer for Mulan, and she had really smart notes to give everyone too. So I say all of that to say the mentors that we had were awesome. And then to be in a cohort with a bunch of other screenwriters who also wanted to like have very strong female characters. I know people hate saying that now, but you know what I'm saying? Like women in leadership roles in their stories.
Yeah, and what is it about that phrase now? Because now it feels to me like it's redundant. You don't say strong woman.
Yeah.
It's a woman. She's strong.
Yeah.
Like, what do you... Or
yeah,
she's a woman. She has all the things.
She's a woman and she's an adult. Like she's, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and she's doing.
She's a fully formed human.
Exactly.
That should be enough.
But there we are, right?
Yeah, we still say it. Fine.
Yeah, we do still say it. I just said it, and then I had to catch myself. But we all know what I mean by that. So all of the stories that we workshop were really inspiring, you know. And
now, do actors come in and read to help part of the process, or how does it work?
No, they didn't do that with us. So this lab the answer is no. But another piece of it was like I was on the screenwriting side, but then there were another 8 women who were on the television writing side. And so their day They didn't do as much workshopping as we did. They did a practice television writers room.
Oh, fun.
With working writers, television writers.
Like
so they
break
got to
a story,
the whole thing.
Cool.
And I think the thing that was the most surprising part for me in doing the lab is it was a bigger deal than I had realized, if that makes sense.
Like, did you just apply like, whatever, maybe I'll do this?
No, it wasn't quite that cavalier, but
Whatever.
no. Okay, so my process for getting to the labs was that I had written the script. Well, to back up even more, when I was out on the film festival lab with Forgetting Chris Brown, it was getting tons of traction. And every time I went to one of these festivals, I would meet somebody and they would say, "So, do you have a feature version?" And I didn't have one. Huge mistake. Because I literally feel like I missed an opportunity with that.
Right. Take note, everybody.
Yes, that's totally why I'm saying that right now. Learn from me. But then I was at this one festival, and this man was like, "I have $100,000 to $200,000 that I can get right now if you have something that we can shoot." And he was dead serious, and I didn't have it.
Yeah. You go home and write your script.
And that's exactly what I did. I was like, I am never having that experience again, which is how the script got written.
Opportunity meets preparation.
And the preparation needed to happen. And so...
Good lesson.
Absolutely.
Painful.
I mean, painful.
Painful. Yeah.
And then I just watched him, like I kept in touch with him, but I watched him like spend that money. Oh, I bought some sound equipment. Oh, I bought some blah, blah, blah. Oh, I just went to Australia. And then by the time my script was written, he had like spent all the money.
So I have $5,000 left. What do you
Yes. What can I get for $5,000? Nothing.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So... Anyway, so that won't happen again. And this script is ready to go. But to get back to the main point of the story, so I wrote this and I sent it out to some of the competitions, and it did pretty well in terms of like finalists, various places, and semifinalists, various places, decent, like super decent places. And I was like, great. So where's the money?
Right.
And like still no money was coming my way. No one wanted to take a meeting. So I feel some kind of way about, but whatever. But then I had given it to one producer, and he was like, your script is a B+ right now. And I really think that you can get this to an A. And I thought, so no money?
Again, painful feedback. Let me take that in for a second.
Yeah. So that happened. But instead of like, rolling my neck and tossing my hair and kind of saying, which I don't have any hair right now, but, but instead of saying he didn't know what he was talking about, I thought, let me stop applying to these competitions and just focus on labs and get it to the A. So like, there's no more question of what needs to happen with it. And so that's how I ended up applying to the Athena lab. And how we got to where we are now, which is with a whole bunch of notes, awesome notes. But I'll be spending the rest of the summer fixing it.
So did you just do that lab?
I just did it in May of 2019.
Great. So having met those people, do you think that will help also open some doors?
Now, yes, and that is the part that I was saying. This seems like a bigger deal than what I thought it would be. So not to be cavalier about what they had to offer. I was only thinking about it in terms of I need to get the script to the next level. But then when I walk in this room and the folks that are there, they're like, yeah, the person, they also have what's called the Athena list, which is similar to the Blacklist, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, but theirs are only scripts with this catchphrase, strong female leads or women in leadership roles. And one of their last winners was the movie about RBG. What was it? On the Basis of Sex. So the scripted one. So the guy who wrote that, he got his movie made after winning being at the top of the Athena list a couple years ago. I didn't make the connection, right? Because now like I'm in this pipeline and they're literally saying to us, go do these rewrites and get this in so you can be on the Athena list.
Yes, beautiful.
And I'm like looking at the people coming into the room. I'm looking at the fact that this is probably TMI, but I mean,
it's never TMI. I want to hear all the tea.
I am so thankful to them. So let me just that's underlying everything that I'm saying about this. But I also hope that everyone applies because it was so helpful. So I go into the room and then I'm like, oh my God, we're at the Lifetime offices. So the Lifetime execs are walking in and out of the room and like, oh yeah, we saw your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and it's in Century City. Yeah. And then the whole mentor piece of it, which I already talked about, they're all like, let me know what happens next. And then they have some alumni and talking about, well, this is what happened with me afterwards. And then they've only done this lab for 2 years so far, the LA version. And one of the people from last year's television lab got hired on the spot to come be on someone's writer's room.
Wow. From
doing that mock television writer's room thing.
Yeah.
So that's like
it's a real opportunity.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. Well, I'm also saying that I wasn't thinking about all of those pieces. I was only thinking about the script, and then I got into it and I was like, holy crap. And already and it's only been a month, I've already been like two people have reached out to me from the lab and asked me to direct something.
What? Wonderful.
I don't know how big those things are, and I don't know where those things are going, but I mean, yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how did you end up in Alabama?
So I was in Los Angeles. So I was in New York I had graduated from school, was out there, and then the market crashed and I hung in there for a while longer and was just like, nothing's happening. I need to like keep moving. So I moved back to LA, not necessarily for business purposes. Like I have family and stuff out here too. And I just thought the weather would be better and whatever. So I was out here for a few years and I don't know, LA's changing.
Mm-hmm. In what way?
This whole idea that people have that like it's cool to sleep in your car and work, not into it.
No.
And it's a thing. I have several friends that did this now.
And they think it's cool?
Well, yeah, that like they're like working homeless.
Like this is your step on the way to making it?
Yes.
Because it's so expensive to live here?
Yes.
It's awful.
Yes. And I was
not into that.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Mm-mm. So, and I'm privileged because I do have the law degree. So I was able to like, work on that side of things.
You're
like
employable.
I'm always employable. I'm really thankful for that. And it's true, but it's factual. Like, yeah.
And you worked hard to get that.
Yeah. So, but even with that, I just felt like this is like, I wanted to dedicate more of my time to creative pursuits. Mm-hmm. And I felt that teaching would give me a lot more time. And even on my day job, like my day job as a teacher of film, like I'm constantly watching stuff and reading stuff and like,
so you're in it. I'm
in it in a way that I wasn't able to be when I was working so many hours to like keep rent and all that stuff going. And in an area that I'm like, I wanted to leave that behind and it just I wasn't able to do that. And I wasn't able to shift in a way that some younger people I think are able to, like taking internships and stuff like that. Right. I'm like, I mean,
you're a grown up.
I'm a grown up and, like I'm humble enough to say I can still learn things or whatever,
right.
but
we're not working for free.
I'm not doing that unless I'm working for myself.
Right.
Which is my podcast. Like, and that was like, and I also did, and I have like a whole theory about when to work for free, which is,
let's hear it.
I wrote out an algorithm for myself, which, I'm using algorithm, but like a flow chart. Which is, what am I going to get out of it? And I don't mean like, are you going to pay me or are you the next Ava DuVernay? But like, is this particular thing going to help move me to a new level? Mm-hmm. And is it in the area that I want to move in a new level in? So for me, I said a lot of yes to women in film. Mm-hmm. So they had a PSA program, which is now shifted a little bit. It's still public service oriented, but it's not PSAs. But anyway, point being, I worked with them for many years while I was here and I did all the roles that there were, directing, writing, producing, and I was meeting great people and I believed in what they were doing. And I still have that community service element to, or passion.
Yeah.
So that met the criteria, but then I would meet people like at a party. Hey, you should come be my script supervisor on my no budget, blah, blah, blah. No, thank you.
Yeah.
And and that's me, right? Because I'm like, that doesn't get me closer to directing. That doesn't get me closer to show running. It doesn't get me closer to the $1 million that I need for my movie. I mean,
it ties you up 14 hours a day for how many weeks?
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, but there's a lot of that going on here in Los Angeles. And this is a very long-winded way of saying that I felt that I would be in a better position to do the things that I really want to do if I took a teaching position. And I knew that I wanted it to be a full-time teaching position, like more, like not just one class, but with health insurance and all of that stuff. So I could free up creative mental energy in order to work on my project. And it's working.
So how did you kind of narrow down what am I going to teach and where am I going to teach and how do you get that job?
I think I got lucky. But what was it you said before about something?
Opportunity meets preparation?
Yes. I think it's that. I think there's a good element of that. Because I have friends that have done like adjuncting and stuff like that for years and they haven't been able to move into the full-time thing. But I just set my intention. I'm like, I'm going to have this kind of job.
You skipped adjunct?
Yeah, I never adjunct.
Tell me more.
I don't know. I only applied to full-time jobs. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not moving anywhere for adjuncting. I mean, if I had gotten adjuncting here in Los Angeles, I probably would have tried to find a way to make it work, but
that's one thing to do it here and pursue your other thing.
And it's not, and they still don't pay here what they should pay. And because again, I have friends that do it, but they're still scraping. I'm like, and you're tying up half your week. Like you can't. Anyway, point being, I just did it. That doesn't help anybody. I know, I'm sorry.
Well, now you're living in a place where I assume it's way more affordable than LA.
And I have the best apartment I've ever had.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. It's right next to the river, which sounds great. But they're bugs.
Yeah, I was going to ask. That seems like very mosquito-y, I would imagine.
I had no idea. I don't know. Like, what was I thinking?
You think it's beautiful?
I was thinking I'm going to go for walks with my dog and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Living next to the river.
Do you do that?
Never. I mean, I go for walks, but I never go near the river. I go away because I don't like the bugs. It's mosquitoes. I mean, I'm saying bugs, but they also have these cicadas and they're loud and big and they just kind of like fall on you or fall on your car. It's too much. And then there are these big brown bugs that fly. And then there's these big red bugs that fly.
That's no joke, man. Bugs in the South. That's no joke.
And so anyway, so that's the Alabama life. I mean, there are things that I give up, right? There are things that I give up by being there. I am a new baby vegan. And so
how's that going in Alabama?
It's not going well in Alabama. I'm learning how to cook for the first time ever because of that. Because they're like, oh, you want vegetables? Here's some corn. No, like that's not enough. That barely counts as a vegetable.
It's basically bread.
Yeah. I mean, you understand. I understand. But for Alabama, that's a vegetable.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. And food is more expensive there. And of course, there's all the political stuff. I'm so glad they elected Doug Jones because we were not going to live that down. I mean, I had people like calling me, texting me, whatever, because it was national news.
Oh, yeah, you were the person everyone was reaching out to. You have to do something.
Yes. And I'm like, I have 8 votes.
Yeah. And now you have to do it all over again.
Yes. I don't know if he's going to win this time, though. But although I heard that Roy Moore, who's the child molester.
Yeah, he's running again.
He's going to run again. No, yeah, he's talking about running again.
Come on. I think the people have spoken.
Not enough of them.
Wow.
They have not told him to go sit down somewhere and be quiet.
Like in prison. Would be a nice place for him to do that. Okay, so you've had a cultural adjustment moving there.
But, and this is the thing. I'm from Ohio. It's not that different, in my opinion. I mean, of course, there are some things that are uniquely Southern, but there are a lot of Southern things that made their way to Ohio. So it didn't feel that big of a deal. And I also thought, and I was wrong in thinking this, that I was going to have all this time to write. That's not so true because my job, they really want all their...
It is a full-time job.
Yes. They want that. They want that time. But I am able to do things like the podcast from there. And I am able to, and it's really cool because part of my job is to stay current in my field. So like going to the Produced by conference was something that I did through the school, which was really awesome.
Did you go to the podcasting panel?
I did not.
Oh, it was great.
Was it?
Yeah.
I had to make a choice.
Fine. There were a lot of great choices.
I think Poppy Hanks
yeah.
is supposed to come on the show.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I was like, I can go listen to her and have something to talk to her about, or I can go to the podcasting thing.
How did you, what made you think, hey, I want to do a podcast?
That's a funny story as well. But before we go to that, what did you get out of the podcast panel? Where are we going with this?
Well, here's what I learned, which I knew before. To really earn a living podcasting, you're either Gimlet or that other company, or you're a celebrity. And the narrative podcast, there is a whole market of people looking to develop those into TV shows. So like Dirty John, Alex Cunningham adapted Dirty John into the television show. So she was on the panel too.
And is that working well? Are people able, I've seen people try to convert podcasts into television, but who's been successful at that?
Well, I think Dirty John was successful. I don't know how many have been successful that way, but it's certainly now one of the pipelines into IP.
I could see that.
Yeah.
So it's such a low investment to do a podcast. And if you gather your audience, you have them.
Yeah.
You have access to them.
So they talked a lot about if you're going to do that kind of podcast, you can't be thinking of it as that's the way I'm going to get into a television show, because it is such a separate art form. You really have to focus on that, and then maybe later hope that it gets picked up and turned into something.
Are you thinking about doing a narrative podcast?
No. Are you?
No.
So we will continue to podcast for free. You know
That
what?
is exactly right.
I don't care. It's the funnest thing I've ever done.
It
makes enough money to pay for itself, but I still have a job.
Yes.
But yeah, it's the best thing ever. I love it.
I really, really enjoy it. I mean, it gives me, I don't even understand the joy that it gives me, but it really, really does. I just sit around. This is how I know who I want to invite on the show. When I hear about them or I read about them, 5 questions pop into my head like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes. And that's how I know.
Yeah.
Period. Sometimes that doesn't happen. I'm like,
You know what? I've been Sophia Cruz, her, the crossover. Brilliant, that woman.
Yes.
Oh my God. I've been the most surprised by, some people have reached out to me at this point, and sometimes I'm like, all right, I guess. And they turn out to be the most interesting people and conversations.
Yeah.
So I've just decided just to be wildly open, because you never know what's going to happen, or what kind of stories people have, or what kind of conversation you're going to have.
This is very
That's
true.
the most fun thing.
I receive that.
I wonder, without the podcast, if we would have these kind of conversations just in life. And I think for
Not
me,
as much,
no.
Not as much. Not nearly as much.
Yeah, because when is someone, first of all, going to sit down and tell you their whole life story, right?
And find out how they got to wherever they are and where they're going next and stuff. Sure.
And strangers, you're not going to have this at Starbucks. But put a mic on and turn it on, and then you get to hear all the tea. I love it.
Right. There's never too much tea.
No. How did you start?
It was I don't know how many different reasons why, but 2 things happened that stood out to me. One, there was a story about, what's the lady's name? Effie Brown. And either right before or right after, there was a quote by Ava DuVernay. And they both were saying something. They said it differently, but they both said, when I hire people, and I'm paraphrasing like crazy right now, so it's not a direct quote, but when I hire people, I want to know that I want to spend 14 hours a day with them.
Yes.
I want to know that we can do dinner party. And I'm like, well, you just don't know me yet. You should.
I'm a delight.
I'm a delight at dinner parties. I mean, seriously, because I'm well versed in all the things, not all the things, but you know what I'm saying?
I know stuff. I can have a conversation.
I can have tons of conversation. I'm much better one-on-one than I am in a big room. I know this about myself.
Same.
And and I'm interested in other people, and I'm interested in their stories. I mean, I've said that several times already. And so
it makes you a delightful dinner party guest.
Exactly. So I was like, well, then they just need to get to know me, and not like them in particular. I didn't start a podcast because I want Effie Brown to hire me or whatever, but she could be my producer if she wants to be.
Effie, you listening?
But seriously, I just thought And that's kind of like how this business, it kind of is to a certain degree. Like when people, they want to hire their friends.
You must be networked.
Yes.
There's no way to do it otherwise.
There is no other way. And that was hard for me because I was, a big academic, up until I got into film school or whatever. And so I'm used to like just grinding and get the A in the class. And like, so
right.
that's so I should be the top of the class because I got the A in the class. And it's like, actually, this whole business doesn't work like that at all. Your A does not matter.
Well, your A is expected.
Yeah, that's base.
Right.
That's like the foundation.
Right.
It's true. And then all this other stuff, which is the social piece and the networking piece, and the relationships that you build and hold on to are the piece that's going to make a difference one way or the other.
Right.
So for me, the podcast was forcing myself to put myself out there much, much more because I would easily just stay in my room and write or watch or whatever. And I'm also a community builder just by nature. And I felt like if I can create a space, even if it's virtual space, for people to feel like, okay, someone else is going through this too. We can do this. I can do this. They did this. I can do that. I wanted that. I wanted to add to that for us. And I'm saying us as like women. And I just felt like I also had this idea that myself 10, 15 years ago would have loved my podcast.
Yeah.
Especially, like I said, like I was like the only Black girl in the class and I got these like, I'm going to say it, but I'm not saying any names, but like super arrogant folks in my class. And they're, and I'm like watching all these like dreams come true and I'm sitting over here like,
yeah, what if you could have listened to something to know that you're not alone?
Yes.
Yeah.
And to know that they're different paths and to know that like this path that I'm on is 150% valid and okay. Like it's not, it may feel like a dead end in one moment, but it's not like even with this script or how the script started. Like I got people saying I have money, but you don't have a script. Okay, go sit down. Well, I could have thought that was the end, but no, I'm going to take that as an opportunity. It's
like a little hint.
Yeah.
If you have a script, there's people with money. And not every path is the white bro path.
I mean, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderfully okay. And I do look for people who seem like they found a new or different way to attack it. Like, I think a person that you had on your show, Sophia Cruz, like the way that she came about putting her documentary together, I was like, God, that's smart. And there's tons of people that are finding really smart ways to make things happen.
Yeah. And to know that there's not one path, I think is really freeing.
Yes.
And you never know who's listening or who it affects. Because we do this thing, we're in my dining room right now. By ourselves, like who knows? This is go out and no one could hear it at all. But I'll tell you, and this meant so much to me. And if you're listening, you will know who you are. After I put up my very first episode, I was still working a corporate job, and someone came into my office in tears. This means so much. I'm so glad you're doing this. And I was like, it's all worthwhile. Yeah. Like that held me over for a year. Yeah. Yeah. Because you just don't know. And I love that about it. I love that about podcasting because. Like, I'm sure you have the same thing, but there are people literally all over the world who are downloading this and getting whatever little nugget that they're getting out of it. Like, all over the world. It's the coolest thing ever.
It is.
And this is why there's so many.
Yes. And everyone's finding their little tribes. They're just finding what they need in the moment. And I do think there's a lot of, like, serendipity to all of it, even, like, how we met and... I mean, that's just mind blowing.
That's crazy.
Like you literally sat next to me.
Yeah.
And I'm only in LA for like a week or two. So
when stuff like that happens, you like have to pay attention, have a moment of gratitude, and then say yes.
Absolutely, yes.
So here you are in my dining room.
And this was me. I'm like, are you sure? It's okay for me to come to your house?
You're going to have me over. You're not going to come kill me. You're just...
Girl, I could not do that. I would do a studio.
Okay, we'll see how this ends. I
don't know. Not saying that I'm going to be, what is the word? A serial killer, but no. But yeah.
Can you imagine just going, there's a premise for a movie. Someone who gets themselves booked on podcasts as a guest who just goes around killing podcast hosts.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
that would be funny.
That could be the next script.
That would be hilarious, actually. That's a real thing.
The podcast.
The podcast killer.
The podcast killer. All right, we'll work on that later. Don't anybody steal that. That's solid gold.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
That's funny.
So what about you? What got you into it?
So I was an acting major, and then I went right into the business of entertainment because I realized I didn't want to be an actor before I even graduated. And I knew like the whole auditioning stuff like made me crazy, and I knew I wasn't that good of an actor. So I was like, that was a big mistake. And I probably, if I did it all over again, I may have thought more going into development or something like that. But I had a job at a commercial production company where he said, I'll make you a producer if you do my accounting. And I said, all right, how hard could that be? Which then led me into a path of production finance and then payroll companies and like this really weird niche I never thought I would be in. So I'm in the corporate part of entertainment, often the only woman in the room, beating my head against the wall. And then there was that, I want to say Naomi Wolf article that came out in the New York Times a couple of years ago where it was female directors talking about lack of opportunity. And the tone was they're mad as hell and they're not going to take it anymore. And I thought, ooh. And then there was a lot of talk about wage inequality amongst actresses. And I was like, that is also very interesting. Like not terribly relatable because of the amount of money we're talking about, but still important and real and has to be solved. And my secret dream job that I never told anybody was I wanted to have a talk radio show because I've been listening to talk radio since the 80s. Oh. Like I was always that person, with my Walkman listening to talk radio, not listening to music. So then I just thought I knew so many women working in the business, so many of whom were breadwinners for their families. And I had also just gotten divorced and I was a breadwinner in my family and that, there was a lot of conflict around that. So I wanted to find out like what is really going on with women in the entertainment industry. And so I just called some friends and I'm like, could we have this conversation and could I record it and maybe it'll become a podcast? And then one thing led to another and I did it.
So you focus more on wage related or did it just start there?
Well, at the beginning, it was 2016. And so we were talking about things like, do you think there's unconscious bias in the workplace? Like we were having that exploration and what kind of things you have to think about besides doing the job. We have to think about our tone of voice and our resting bitch face and how we do our hair and how we say I'm sorry and how we, come across in a meeting and all the other stuff we have to think about to be successful. So that was my initial going in and I had all these list of questions like, tell me the obstacles you felt, as you, and then Me Too happened, which changed the conversation completely. But also through interviewing these women, I heard so many stories of just triumph, like women having amazing, badass careers despite, and yes, they had to put up with all that bullshit and still being so successful and having such great careers. So then it just became kind of equal parts. Tell me your story and your path and your career and how this happened. And then what did you experience being a woman on this path? Right. Anyway, don't get me started.
No, I'm interested. I'm really interested. Yeah. I think that the turning point for me in terms of the being a woman in this business part is just really accepting my journey and all the pieces that came with it, the obstacles, but also the privileges of being me in this business. And the fact that like it's going to unfold for me in a way that's very particular to the journey that I'm on, which is totally mine and nobody else's. And so I don't know, like I guess I just once like I accepted that and really embraced it and came into like myself about that, and then everything just kind of started to flow in a huge way.
How do you keep the faith around that? Because it is an act of faith, right? That it's going to unfold for me the way it's supposed to unfold.
How do I keep the faith about that?
Trusting that it will unfold.
I mean, it's just because it's happening. Like just meeting you was one of those little things, like, and even with the podcast, I mean, I don't know how to answer that. How do I keep the faith around? I have a friend who's like a very snotty atheist. And so we have these debates about, faith in general, but he's also in the entertainment industry. And so he's like, this is just stupid. Like, and I'm like, no, you're stupid because you need faith to like get up in the morning. Like you just need it. Cause what's the alternative? In my mind, the alternative, and I lived that for a while. The alternative was to be jealous and angry and bitter and just unhappy. I'm not choosing that for myself.
No, you can't live that way. But then also note
There
to
are
all my
people who
friends,
do.
like, stop sending me press releases of celebrities launching podcasts that are exactly the same as mine. I don't need to hear that.
You don't.
I don't.
And it doesn't even matter, because here's the thing. Your podcast is going to reach who it needs to reach.
Exactly.
I absolutely believe that. Both of ours, all of ours. Like, it's so funny you mentioned the celebrity ones, because I literally just followed Gimlet Media today. But only because I'm like, I should at least know what's going on. Yeah. But I don't focus on how many other people are doing it, because
you can't. You gotta
they're
just
not
stay in your
me.
lane.
Just like I'm not you. Like, we're all going to, I just really believe that we're all going to find who we need to find, and we're going to affect and touch and move who we need to move.
And there's enough room.
Absolutely. I mean, granted, like, it is like this particular time period, there's a lot of people telling their stories in this media, but
great.
Yeah.
I listen to them all day long.
All day.
Yeah.
And especially here, because you guys have to commute all the time. Like, you can go through somebody's show, their whole archive in a week or two.
Yeah. It's great.
You know?
I just have the podcast on my phone, in my pocket with my headphones on as I'm cleaning the house, washing dishes, like doing whatever I need to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All day, every day.
How do you keep the faith?
Same. Because little things happen every day that I think are just like, oh, you're on the right path. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because through my experience working in corporate entertainment America, I was fueled by rage for so many years, just so angry. And now I just bless it all, because it made me an activist. It made me like wake up and see what was happening. Like, it made me want to do something about it. I don't know that I would be here doing this if not for going through all of that.
Right.
So now I'm grateful, for that whole process, which is not answering your question. But the answer to your question, I think, is the same. Like, I keep a box in my bedroom, and every day when something happens that feels like a little wink, like, I write it down, I put it in the box.
Nice.
And if you look for it, it happens all the time. But I even look for it like, when you see numbers like 111 or 222, I notice every time that happens too. And I just go, okay. Because it always pops up when you're having a difficult moment. And I'm like, all right, my phone says 1111. It's going to be fine. And then I know that's like hashtag shit girls in LA say. And even if it's meaningless, it brings me comfort.
I have a girlfriend who, she listens to the show and she says, and you're just so positive. Like, I just don't understand. Like, how are you so positive all the time? And I'm just like, I honestly believe that I know that I have a choice. Mm-hmm. I'm choosing to not let these motherfuckers get me down.
Exactly. Exactly.
Period.
Yeah. And there was also a shift for me very recently where I finally owned I am no less smart or capable than anybody else at this table.
That's right.
So I have every right to be here. And that in any, whether I'm at a company, whether I'm at, whatever table I'm at, I feel that now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's just getting old, having life experience, or interviewing 164 women, where I'm like, you know what? We have every right to be here. We have every right to own our voice. We have every right to have as much influence on the world and the culture as any man who ever walked through any door. And I just believe that in my core. And I've realized that equality has become my driving force. Mm. And so whatever little part I can do, because I know it's a big whole thing that may never happen. Mm-hmm. But if I can do my part every day, I'm doing it.
Oh, you mean the equality is a big thing that may never happen?
Yeah.
Mm. I wonder how I feel about that.
Yeah, I wonder how you feel about that.
I guess it never crossed my mind that it would never happen.
I mean, it will happen. Will it happen in my working lifetime or in my lifetime at all? That's the question I have. And I have to decide it doesn't matter whether or not we ever reach the goal. Because if I think in terms of, well, God, I've been doing this for 10 years and we're not there yet, then that lets me give up. But I think we can never give up. So for me to just push it out to, I don't know when it's going to happen and it may not be in my lifetime, so I'm going to work on it the rest of my life. Then I know how I have to have stamina.
Right.
Because you could burn out in 2 years doing that.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. I guess I'm a little fascinated by it because, even before I was a filmmaker, I was a public interest attorney or social justice. Some people call it one or the other. Mm-hmm. I guess equality was the goal, but I think we just kept inching forward, which is what you're saying as well. But I never thought about, and perhaps I should, I never thought about what is the big end goal. And I just haven't. I don't know. That's interesting.
Because it's baby steps.
Yeah.
And you can see the progress.
But then you can see the backlash.
You can see and the backsliding. And the two steps forward and the one step back constantly.
And that is so annoying.
Yeah. And every time you think like the old guard is about to die out, you see some young person doing some bullshit. And you're like, oh my God, they're not dying out.
Yeah.
There are still Nazis who are in their 20s.
Yes.
Then it's like, what?
Believe me, I'm in Alabama right now.
Yes.
And I'm like, you really... So it's interesting that you say that, because in Alabama, like, you can't, in my opinion, like, the beauty of it is that no one is denying that it's there, there in Alabama. They, like, you know, they hang their flags literally on their sidewalks and on their bumper stickers and whatnot. So there's no time where you get to forget what you're fighting for, in a way that you can forget in places that are kind of progressive, like here.
How is that to go from LA to Alabama?
To be honest, I experienced more racism here in Los Angeles than I have anywhere else I've lived.
Tell me more.
It's more segregated. I would go into spaces like Beverly Hills, and because I have lived in so many places, I feel comfortable everywhere, like, just period. Like, you can't take me somewhere where I'm not going to be interested in the people or feel like I can walk up to you and have a conversation or whatever. But here, there were times where I was like, oh, you're not comfortable. Like, and I would visibly see the discomfort come over a person's body language. And that was interesting to watch, because, and again, I might sound arrogant, but like I'm awesome. Like, why would you? Like,
you don't know me.
You don't know me yet, but like, wait for it. Like, and so that was odd. And then I also think that, and I do ultimately love the experience that I had with these women, but also, like, working with women in film, there were some things that happened where I was like, and it's not just them, like, they just happen to be the group that I work with the most. And I appreciate them very greatly, because they gave me some opportunities in terms of, like, labs and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to, like, say nobody should like women in film. That's not where I'm going with this. But I am saying that when you're in a space that's mostly white women and you're the only black woman there, and, you know, and I'm walking in like, hey, like, I'm a lawyer and I went to NYU and I have let's go, let's make things. I have a lot to offer. And they're like, go intern.
It's interesting to me what can happen in groups that are primarily white women pushing for women's issues is forgetting to be intersectional, or thinking it doesn't matter because we're all women. Let's just push the women forward,
right?
And I can imagine that feels like particularly white-centered pushing women forward, because I think I think we can't untangle them,
right? And
we have to stop and make sure everybody is heard.
And again, I just want to say that I don't think they are any more egregious than anybody else.
We're not even talking about women in film.
Yeah, we're not. That's what I was trying to say with it. Like, I think
it may apply to any kind of group.
And it does.
I was waiting to hear what your experience was in that.
But I do think that I don't wait for them to be intersectional, but I appreciate it when it happens. And so there's almost an expectation that they're not going to be. And then when there is a reach across the aisle or table to be intersectional, I'm appreciative. But again, with my whole thought process of this is my journey, and like, you can be a part of it or you cannot, and you being whoever is in the room. So you can choose to participate in this journey with me, moving forward, progressively, creatively, whatever, or you can get out of the way. And so that's how I've personally navigated all of this, like, different degrees of feminism.
And are you able to articulate what it, in a very, I can be very linear sometimes, in a very practical way, what does it look like when it's done well?
When it's done well. I have a friend who I met through an organization that I'm no longer a part of, but we met, and she reached out to me, very basic, friendly, go for coffee. And we developed a relationship. And through that friendship, she would say, "You're awesome. I want to introduce you to this person. And I want to invite you to my office to meet the whoever she thought it would be good for me to meet in her office." And she did that. And then when I bombed one of the meetings, because I did.
It happened.
It does happen. But I was just so nervous because like most people are not inviting me to like meet the people in their office. And so I was like, I didn't want to embarrass myself. And I was very stiff. So that's how that happened. But anyway, she invited me into that space, which was a huge deal for me because up until that point, there really weren't a lot of people that were like, let me help you move forward. Mm-hmm. And she did that. And she continues to say, and you're awesome. And like, why don't you try this? And even if let me contact this person for you. And that is something that she used her particular privilege to do. Because I didn't have access to those rooms, but she gave me like her pass.
Got you in.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
And that didn't happen very often, regardless of the amount of work that I put in to different organizations or the amount of work that I put in as a creative person or as a screenwriter or blah, 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 or how many festivals or all the things. It's like, that's cute, but I'll see you at the next festival where I bump into you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
instead of real advocacy.
Mm-hmm. And so for her, like I look at her as my gold star standard for what an ally looks like. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I love that. Do you have any advice for women coming up behind you?
A couple of things. I think the sooner that you can get to that faith piece, I think is going to make a huge difference. Whatever that means for you. I'm not like a church person, but whatever keeps you going, you need to find that and hone that and trust that, because there are going to be ups and downs, and like you need that part that is going to like keep your foundation strong no matter what the ups and the downs are. So whether that's meditation or yoga or church or podcast, I think you need that as soon as possible. And I had someone who recently said to me, don't monitor other people. I don't know why it's such a simple statement, but it kind of rocked my world because I thought about all the ways that I had been monitoring other people.
You can't compare yourself. You
cannot. You will drive yourself crazy. Mm-hmm. You will drive yourself insane. Like where you were talking about the whole podcasting thing and like how crowded the space has been. Like I'm honestly not aware because I'm like this, like I can't focus on what other people are up to.
No, it'll make you crazy. It'll knock you off your path.
Yeah. So whatever your thing is, whether it's acting or directing, writing, or producing, all of that, like whatever you should like have at least an awareness of what the industry is doing so that you can respond or jump ahead and be innovative or whatever. But as far as the day to day and like everybody's announcement of the thing that they're up to, you don't know how many failures or mishaps they had along the way. You just don't. Right. Like for myself, when I apply to things, and I've said this publicly before, literally every time someone gives me a rejection letter of any kind, it stays in my inbox until I submit a new application to something else.
Oh, I love that.
And
then it's just a step towards your yes.
Yes. Like very concretely a step towards my yes. And that is probably how I got into that lab.
Because you have to keep doing it. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person in the world with your perspective and your story to tell. And no one else can tell it. And you can't tell anyone else's story.
You cannot.
So you may as well do your own work.
And get on with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What didn't I ask you that I should have asked you?
Well, I always end my show by asking people, what are you excited about? That has nothing to do with film. So I'm going to answer that question.
Yeah, what are you excited about? That's a good one. I'm going to steal that.
What am I excited about? I am dual excited. I can't decide which one I'm more excited about. And it does have something to do with film, but not like totally. I can't wait to get home to watch Pose and Claws. Like it started without me because I've been traveling. I haven't been able to like watch the shows and they just started. And I'm just like, I can't wait to get home so I can like.
That's the best.
When you have a show that
when
you love.
Have a show that you are running home to watch. Yeah. Yes. That's the best.
I'm really, really looking forward to that. And my health goal for my summer break is to try a new dish every week.
Oh.
I'm not a cooker. I've said that, but I have to cook. And so I'm going to have fun with it this summer.
Yeah, good. Fun. Thank you so much. This was so great to meet you.
Absolutely. And I just love how we met.
I know, it's the best.
It's really cool.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Marquette Jones for sharing her story, and go subscribe to her podcast, Directing Magic. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on your favorite podcast provider and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. And the merch really is coffee tumblers, but they're very cool. You can also follow us on all the social media platforms. And go subscribe to catchabreakpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time.